All right, welcome everybody. This is Tom Randolph from GoldenCare, and I'm joined here with Dennis Reiner. Welcome to the webinar today. Thanks for jumping on. We're going to talk today about the extended care objections that you might hit as you're out in the short-term care market and working with some of your existing clients or new prospects, etc. And I'm joined here today with my partner in crime, Dennis Reiner. And again, I'll let Dennis say hello, but before that, I want to remind you that we're in two different locations, two different computers. So sometimes the speaker volume, et cetera, I'm blowing your ears off and Dennis is quiet or vice versa. So I apologize about that ahead of time, but we'll be jumping back and forth today a lot. Dennis, go ahead and say hi if you'd like.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Yep, we're going to have some fun today. And Dennis is going to do, I've had the pleasure of working with Dennis for so long. I've been with GoldenCare for, my 27th year now. And Dennis is, if it's the first time you're hearing us speak or present on this Integrity Short-Term Care Initiative, we're really excited about the fact that we get to do this. And you're in good hands with Dennis, especially because he's been around a long time in the trenches selling and also training probably 100,000 agents plus now about how to sell. And I've had a lot of experience in the sales area and training myself. So hopefully we're going to do a good job of helping you feel comfortable to go out and help people. And I know some of you have been on my other calls, and I know Dennis cringes, but I always say we start everyone with this slide, because the reason we're here, besides making more money, keeping our persistency up, keeping our agent retention, client retention, etc., the main reason we're here is helping people. Because I look at America, there's a lot of gray hair. We got baby boomers turning age 65, 70 faster than we can count. And at the end of the day, the stats don't lie. People need this type of protection. 70% of people in America 65 plus are going to require some type of extended care. I'm talking not just even 3 or 4 days of care. I'm talking about extended care. And 90% of married couples are going to have at least one of them who needs some type of care. So when you look at that, and then you follow that up with that other stat saying 90% of adults have never had a serious conversation about how to protect themselves and their family, it puts a lot of burden on us. And I'm passionate about this. You'll hear me say it time and time again. I'm passionate about this because I need agents like you to roll up those shirt sleeves and realize I can't just go out and sell my med sup or my MA or my life or my final expense. I have to at least ask the question to my clients if I'm going to serve them well. And that's saying, hey, do you have something in force? And I know we're not going to get too deep in the sales side today, even though the objections is a big part of that. But you'll hear that. The number one job for you, and the easy part of it, is you got to step out of your comfort zone and ask that question, because you will be amazed how fast you can turn heads from people, because they're starving to hear about this. COVID, the only good thing that came from it is people really started getting nervous about those facilities. And we sell these policies mainly to try to keep people out of the facility as long as we can, where they can be comfortable and where they want to get care, if that's possible. So I'll get off my soapbox there and turn it over to Dennis a little bit, or I can start with this first one. This is a no-brainer. One of the things to realize about objections is they're a natural part of the sales process, right? So as you're going out there, and if you listen to Dennis and my training about how to start the conversation and how to design plans and how to do all that fun stuff and make sure we help people, the objection, remember, is just a natural part. Most of us, if you're selling any product to any consumer at any level, people inherently have their little caveman mentality, if you will, to say, you know what, I don't want to spend more money. I don't know if I want to talk about something that's going to confuse my life or make me scared. So the first one we always say, there's oftentimes just a smoke objection, right? Hey, do you have your extended care taken care of? I don't even know what that is. What do you mean? Well, let me explain a little bit. And then you talk about what it is. And if you had anybody in your family or anybody yeah, I have. And, but what do you think about this? This is something that most of my clients, I kind of say we need to have. It's almost a must have that we talk about it. And I have some great selection of things that can protect you. What do you think? Can I get in and talk to you about it? And the first one, it's like, no, you know what, for sure, I think this isn't something I'm going to need, or my kids are going to take care of me, whatever it might be. A lot of times that's just to see if they can get you off the phone, right? Or get you off the computer. So Dennis will elaborate more on all this, of course, as we go through. But the big thing is, remember, a lot of these are real light objections where they're just saying, can I see if I can get this guy to hang up on me or this gal to hang up on me without sending me any more confusion. So Dennis, why don't you go ahead? I know this is going to be mainly your show today, and I'm going to jump in quite often, of course, but go ahead, Dennis, if you'd like to on this one and start talking a little bit about the background.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. And Tom and I really enjoy our training, and Tom's got some tremendous talents, and I could brag on him for quite a while, but we only have a short amount of time on this webinar because his skill set is, in addition to being a great sales trainer, Tom has some great technical skills and really does a lot behind the scenes that has been influential in making, helping to bring these products to market that we are so proud to be a part of with the Integrity Short-Term Care Initiative. But when we're talking about eliminating these objections before they come up, you're in the Medicare space, many of you who are on this call, and Tom said something just a moment ago that's really important. In the long-term care arena where we cut our teeth for many, many years, and Tom and I have had the good fortune of being doing this for, 25, 26, 27 years. It's, I don't know, but when I hear Tom talk about me, I feel like do I have any tread left on the tires? Because he makes it seem like I'm high mileage. I know he's being very complimentary, but the reality is you're not going to encounter, we don't believe, the same objections, but you should at least have a foundation of understanding what they are, because Tom had said something about the difference between nice to have or need to have versus have to have. And your approach that we talked about the other day and starting the conversation is really to make your clients feel like they have to have this. So some of the typical objection stoppers, yes, there is the issue of making sure that you cover the health. We also, deal with decision makers like family members. Price is always a component. So Tom, maybe jump on to the next visual, and let's just see if we can go a little bit further here and talk about this, because when you're with clients, they're asking themselves this question. Hey, I know you just took care of my Medicare needs and you've helped me with my Medicare Advantage plan or my prescription drug benefit, but do I really need what you're talking about, this extended care? Do I even like it? People, sometimes it's easier when we think about these objections, it's easier for people to put off, what it is, because they just don't want to think about it. I often say in my training that people will spend more time planning their next vacation, and they research it and they get into all the details, and some of them put it on a spreadsheet what they're going to do each day than they actually do thinking about what would happen if their health were to change, and how would they manage those expenses. And affordability, at the end of the day, the great thing about these extended care plans is they're anywhere from 30 to 50% lower than other alternative LTC solutions, including traditional long-term care or asset-based. So affordability is really never a factor. And Tom, as we go on, the goal is to help them to make a good decision. But, Tom mentioned about this being objections come up. They're a normal part of the process. That's because you're asking people to spend money. Anytime you ask someone to reach into their pocket and pay for something, especially pay for something that they hope never happens to them, that's always a challenge. So fear of making a decision, there's procrastinators. I think on one of the training, I said this, that procrastination is my sin. It brings me constant sorrow. I really shouldn't practice it. Perhaps I'll stop tomorrow. And that's how clients think. They'll just put it off, and they're fearful of making a decision. They might even be fearful of making a wrong decision. There's that concern as well. And Tom, if you'll just scroll through and just put the rest of those on there, and let me give it to you maybe just slightly differently. When you have the opportunity, and Tom will later pull up the site that we've created for all of our integrity partners and for all of the agents that are listening in, that are working with our various partners, it really comes down to 7 reasons why people are not going to make that decision to do business. And it all starts with the word no. So I'm not going to go through deep on this. I'm just going to share it with you and then refer you back to, if you want to listen to the recorded training. But it all starts with the word no. So no need, no help, no hurry, no time, no want, no like, no money. So we've listed those in a little bit different fashion here about the fear of making a decision, wrong decision, lack of trust, lack of understanding, lack of urgency. That's kind of that no hurry. Lack of desire is really the no want. I want to talk about something that many years ago I was training an agent, and we went into a home, and the client, at the end of our interview process, moved ahead, and I was trying to impress this agent with how you actually go through the sales process and so on. And the client said, "Do you know why I actually decided to do business with you today?" I said, "Well, I hope it's because the solution meets your needs." And she said, "Oh, yeah, that's part of it. But I had someone in our home just the other day that really offered me the same product." I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "And you elected not to go forward at that time?" She goes, "Yeah, I didn't like him." So when I said no like, don't discount the fact that people are really funny when it comes to who they want to do business with. And that may seem like a silly objection, but I'll tell you what, it's probably more real than you think. So as we go on and talk about some of the real, objections that you're going to hear in the next visual here that we're going to talk about.
Sorry, my computer's a little slow.
That's okay, Tom. Oh yeah, Tom's driving the bus here, so I can only talk and let him pull up the so that you can follow along. And I know many of you. I hope that if you're multitasking, or if you're have like we all do, several different monitors, and you might be doing emails on one, and you're following along on this one. Tom, let's just go ahead and list those common objections.
One of the things I want to throw in and add to what you were talking about before, so our agents know it. It's one of the beautiful things about this initiative, because a lot of you on this call are people who are out in the Medicare ranks or selling other products. And one of the nice things, like Dennis just said, they don't trust you or don't like you, can be a big reason they don't buy. And boy, when we have agents going out cold calling or doing a lead call on long-term care or short-term care, if you're in that market, you have to really build that rapport and empathy, and you have to do all those things that you guys get such a nice shortcut, because think about the fact that you've already helped that family. Most of you are doing this as a close after you close the sale, or you've already cemented in your med sup or your MA or whatever you might be selling. So you get a huge jump start. Don't kid yourselves. And I know Dennis knows that as well, and was implying it, is that you guys have a huge jump start because you've already built a little bit of trust, or a lot of trust if it's an old client that you work with. So that's why you guys can just knock it out of the park here, because literally half the battle is getting people to realize, who is this talking to me? Is this a scam? Is this somebody trying to pull a fast one on me? I'm a senior now. There's a lot of scams going on. That's the beauty of having you guys roll up the sleeves. And I say you guys as Minnesotan, you guys and gals, make sure you realize how important it is that you guys have a huge jump start, and you can go out and really, really help a lot of people much easier than people who are coming in with more of a cold call. So Dennis, go ahead. I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, Tom, if you'll just list all those up we'll just have them all. Thanks. And I was referring in that story, by the way, and Tom's absolutely right. You have the low hanging fruit, which is all the people that like you, that trust you, that have stayed with you for a number of years. I was talking about that experience about the no like, because it was a lead card back in the days, and some of you who still sell face to face can recall what that was like. And what was interesting about that story was the reason why the client did not like that individual is because that client came into the home and did things where did not respect that person's home, and got up and got himself his own drink of water. And some of this now today on Zoom calls, you're not having to worry about that when you're selling remotely, about they're in their home, you're in your home. But the reality is, you do have a huge advantage as far as not having to deal with that particular situation, because people do, generally speaking, if they're your existing client, then you've established that rapport, you've created the integrity, and you've been able to have them stay with you. So let's look at this list here, and let me give you, now these are just, and Tom has his take, and he'll definitely share his insights on this. And this is not to say that, you know, his way or my way is the only way that you handle these objections. You know, many of you who are on this call are probably seasoned pro, and you're probably saying, you know, I know how to do this myself. And so some of this is just really just either good reminders, or it just reinforces maybe what you already know. And so we could go through, and we probably won't cover all of these, but when we're talking about a product like extended care, these are the ones that typically will surface. You know, it's very common for them to say, my spouse or my family will take care of me. You know, people think they already have their plan. They don't need an extended care plan because they have the family plan. The family plan is right there. So what is a rule? And I'm going to give you 4. And I think if you will follow these 4 rules, it will apply to any objection that you're going to hear. So let me just state what they are, and then let's see if we can give an example. So the first rule is, and we said this, you know, Tom brought this up already. I'm just going to say it a little bit differently, is you need to make sure that you're surfacing the objections. You know, during the course of the interview, if you don't bring them up, if you wait for them to bring them up, then what happens is you're no longer in a position of strength. During the course of the interview, you're in a position of weakness because you're reacting to what they're saying. But when you bring it up, you're in control, and you're taking the objection off the table. So surface is the first rule. The second rule is we need to isolate it. The third rule is we need to address it. And the fourth rule is we naturally then overcome it. So let's use, as an example, I'll just go to the second one. And Medicare is certainly, you know, that's probably a big misconception, and we'll come back to that. But my family will take care of me. You know, it's not uncommon for a husband and wife, if they've been married for many, many years, to think if something happens to the one, the other will step in. And so, you know, the objection, when someone says that, my spouse will take care of me. And so you can basically, you've brought up that objection by surfacing it by saying, hey, many of my clients, when I start talking about extended care, feel like their family can step in and take care of them. Have you ever had those same thoughts about the fact that you think that maybe one or the other can help out? And sure, so we surface it. Now, one of the ways that we isolate it is what we're trying to do in isolating the objection is we're trying to make sure that there's nothing else. So let me ask you a question, Bob and Mary. Other than your family, that you feel that your family could take care of you, is there anything else that would be holding you back from moving ahead? So now what I've done is I've taken that objection, my family will take care of me, and now I've put it over here by isolating it and saying to them, is there anything else? Because what I don't want to have during the course of the interview is I don't want to continue to go down the path, and I think I'm doing a great job, and then suddenly I get to the end of the interview and the client says to me, well, no, we want to think about it, or no, we want to do this, or no, gee, it's too expensive. So the second rule is to more or less make sure that you're isolating the objection. Now we're addressing it. Say, Bob and Mary, one of the reasons why I know that you can have each other help out, but the great thing about the plan I want to talk to you about today is this plan actually allows you to pay one another to take care of the other. You can get money out of your plan. A lot of plans don't allow for that, Bob and Mary. So that's something that's really pretty attractive. And Mary, I don't know, you said that you've been married 40 plus years to Bob, and you have a little humor here. Maybe it's time that you actually got paid, and if his health changed, that you could actually get some money for actually taking care of him. But wouldn't that be fantastic if you could not only rely upon one another, but know that if your health progressed and actually that burden got a little bit too much, that you could even call in a family member, someone else, your daughter, because they might say to you that, hey, my daughter's an RN, she lives down the street. So where we're going with this is just think of those rules. One, surface it. 2, isolate it. 3, address it. And then 4, you've overcome it. Let me go into this one that often comes up because cost is always a factor. I've done, as Tom has indicated, and so has Tom. We both, for a number of years, we had one of our strategic partners was a very large broker dealer, and we were doing on average probably 100 consumer workshops a year, traveling around the country. Tom was busy, I was busy. I'm talking about each. We were going like ships in the night, passing one another. And I can remember that during the course of the consumer events that I was doing, and I know Tom had similar experiences. One of the things I'd always say at the very front, start of the consumer event, client seminar, was I would ask them how many have actually, looked into care planning, things like long-term care or other solutions like that. Have you looked into it? And people would always raise their hands, and I would say, what did you learn about this type of coverage? And of course, the number one answer that people will always say is that it's too expensive. And so you're going to hear when people that you've just helped someone with a Medicare plan, especially a Medicare Advantage plan, where they've had zero premium and they know about their Part B deductible and they know about nominal prescription drug benefit, and here you're going to talk to them about something that maybe you have to have some sensitivity to that requires them to reach into their pocket and to pay for this this plan at maybe a level that is outside of normally what you've been used to asking for money for. You may get that objection that, hey, it's too expensive. So let me come back to, again, that whole 4-rule process. 1, we can surface it, we can bring it up, we could state it during the course of our interview that some of you have maybe looked into care planning before. Have you, Bob and Mary? And they say, yeah. What did you find? Let them tell you that it's expensive, and then take that objection off the table by saying, other than cost. In other words, if we can just put cost over here about what these plans cost, is there, and remember these words. So if you're right now multitasking and you're not, you're looking at your emails on the other screen, I promise you this will be very helpful to you if you will just take some extra time and just focus on what I'm saying, which is, other than cost, is there anything else that's held you back? To me, when we can take and isolate the objection, we now know, is there any other objection? Will they come back and say, oh, my family will take care of me? Okay, well, let's deal with that. Or will they say Medicare will pay for it? Okay, let's deal with that. But now we know, because you've surfaced it, you've isolated it, you've addressed it, and you've overcome it. Tom, you want to jump in? And is there any comments that you have on anything that we've covered so far on these common objections? Because I know we could go really deep on the Medicare and even further on the Medicaid. And I don't want to ignore that objection. We can talk about that, but I want to make sure that you have an opportunity as well.
No, I appreciate that. And, again, you guys, I hope on this call got it, whether you're a wily veteran or a rookie in sales in general, but for short-term care, especially in extended care. Huge idea that Dennis presented. I know most of you may have known it, but it's so important to actually do it. That isolating is just unbelievably powerful when it comes to these type of sales. So, because your ultimate goal is to help the people, and they want you to help them make a good decision. So, the only thing I would add on there, and again, it's not just in my own experience, the family is going to take care of me. That is huge. Dennis was obviously talking about the Omniflex plan, and GTL has a plan, their Recover Cash, that has ability to get a one-time cash payment for family members. But the beauty of these plans, and that's one of the reasons that Omniflex is turning heads in the industry, is the families take care of me is so important. It's number 2 objection a lot of times when you look at the extended care conversation. And one of the things we can do with that is say, and the nice part about these plans is that not only can we pay for mom and dad, but a lot of times you realize, normally, from working with Jim over the years, I'm looking at you across the table here, and I've met you before. he's a bigger guy than you. So sometimes it gets to the point where you're saying, wow, I kind of want to take care of him, but it's getting too hard for me. So remember, if something happens, God forbid, we can make sure that we have a policy that really kind of does it both. It'll pay for you or a family member to help out. But if it gets uncomfortable and you have to just start doing things you just can't physically do, or you just get to the point where you're just getting worn out, we have the ability to switch over in these plans and have a home health person come in and help. And that's the beauty of how flexible these plans are. So that way you can kind of hit two objections in one if you want to. And another part of the family members, of course, is the big thing of saying, unfortunately, most Americans are stuck in that spot, right? They're saying my family's going to have to take care of me because I didn't even have the opportunity to plan ahead and have a backup protection plan. So that's another good way to get over that objection, is you're agreeing with them and you're saying it's so important, but how nice that with these plans, we could pay you with some of these plans and actually have you get benefits out of your plan with your family helping you, or have to pivot over to get more extensive care if they need it. So no, Dennis, you're doing a great job. I'll let you go ahead and we can pivot. I got some other slides if you need them, those are up there. And that's one thing you guys know, is this is a never-ending topic. And that's one of the things hopefully you'll feel comfortable knowing your people at your marketing organization have us as a resource to reach out to us and say, what are some of the different things you can help us with on different objections to get a little deeper dive than obviously we can go through on a webinar today. So we have a lot of materials and a lot of experience to help you with. So go ahead, Dennis.
Thanks, Tom. Let's come back to the Medicare, because that's the space that you're in, and you may have just gotten done. And what Tom just shared with you is really important. And I was not trying to be product specific. I was really just, and that was the OmniFlex. And as you later today, we're actually doing a GTL product webinar this afternoon, and we're going to be talking about that unique benefit, that cash benefit that's in the GTL product as well. But when you're talking with clients, there is a misconception. They think because they've got their Medicare plan in place and their Part A, their Part B, their Part C, that they think that Medicare does it all. And yet we know, and those of you who are on this call, I know this for sure, that Medicare was never intended to pay for any form of whether you want to call it short-term care, long-term care, extended care, care in general. And so the limitations are helping them to understand. And sometimes I would say, don't be afraid to carry with you some supplemental, if you're out still face-to-face, or even if you're doing things remotely, you can pull up the Medicare and You guide and point to it so they see it in writing about what the limitation is, where Medicare will only pay for the first 20 days of skilled care. And then the 21st day to the 100th day, that they're going to have that $200, I think this year it's $200, per day out of pocket, up to $200 out of pocket. So, and we know that skilled care, the vast majority is what Tom was just talking about with the family, is it is custodial care. And that's, if we look at from a percentage standpoint, the statistics are just amazing. Yes, there's a progression of care, and people do go to assisted living, and they do go to skilled nursing facilities, and that's why you need to make sure that they're covered. But the reality is that Medicare isn't going to pay, and they get beyond 100 days, and I'm telling you, it is there's not going to be any coverage. They're completely out of pocket. And remember this too, when we say it pays up to that 100 days on a 21 to 100. Most of it is the fact that we talk about the first 20 days being skilled care, which is free. And here's the reality. I always, when I get this objection, hey, Medicare will pay for it, I very simply can walk them through. Remember, I'm going to surface it, I'm going to isolate it, I'm going to address it, and I'm going to overcome it. And one of the things that you can just say is that, Bob and Mary, imagine if Bob was in the hospital and the doctor came in, and here you are around the 20 days, and you're thinking, gosh, I know Medicare is going to pay for 100 days. And the doctor basically, it tells you he's got some good news for you. And the good news is that he tells you, Mary, that Bob's not getting any worse. And then he looks over and says to Bob, and he also says it to Mary, but the bad news is Bob's not getting any better. And you see, Medicare will stop paying when Bob does what? He stops progressing. So very rarely will people even get beyond those 20 days of Medicare. So as we go on and look at these different objections, it will never happen to me. Early on, again, very early on in the interview process, if you listen to our Start the Conversation webinar, we talk about the importance of getting people to admit it can happen to them. You can't wait, as I indicated earlier, to the tail end of the interview for someone to say, "Oh, Dennis, this sounds really good. It was really some great information that you shared with me. And here it is that that you've got 3 other Medicare appointments that day, and you took the extra time because you really thought you had someone that was leaning in." And then they say, "But this is never going to happen to me." So wouldn't you rather take that objection off the table on the front end? And it's very easy to do. You can just say something along the lines of, Bob and Mary, as you're talking with them, maybe you've got done with your all that you've had to take care of on the Medicare side, and now you're transitioning into this extended care conversation, and you say, boy, both of you, I've seen you every year for the last 5 years or the last 3 years, and looks like you guys are in great health. You're on that path for a long life. But would you agree with me that during the course of this journey that there could be circumstances that could happen to one or both of you that could cause your health to change? And you pause and you let them answer. And if you end up with a roadblock right there about people not acknowledging or ever admitting that their health is going to change, then I'm going to tell you right now, it doesn't matter what the price is, they're not moving ahead. They're not moving ahead because, again, there's an old adage that is so true when you're talking with clients, and that is the person that's convinced against their will is of the same opinion still. When it comes to products like extended care that require a financial commitment that people have to pay on an ongoing basis, and if they don't recognize that need because they don't ever feel like their health is going to change, then again, that there's certain objections that become stoppers along the way. And that's one of them. And so, but it's very easy, again, to surface it, to isolate it, to address it, and then to overcome it. So, Tom, as we talk about some of these objections, you had a couple things. I wanted to come back to one. If you go back to that list, I think it was about buying coverage. We talked about buying coverage later, but if you want to jump in right here, that's fine too.
Yeah, and again, I think it's important, and I know we get a few more minutes, but that one is one of the easiest ones to get over. It's a stopper if you can't get over it, but it is one of the easiest ways to get over it. And a lot of times all it takes is saying, I wish that was true, but the nice part about short-term care policies is that they cover things like hip replacements, knee replacements, fractures, surgeries. So they're very well leveraged plans that pay pretty good benefits for what you're paying on premiums. And I can show you all that. But at the end of the day, when you say you're never going to use it, we all hope that with our car insurance, our homeowners, our dental insurance, any of that stuff. And if you look at this, the reality is, look at the odds. The odds of having a house fire that's going to cause over $10,000 worth of damage is 1 in 1,200. The odds of being in an auto and having it totaled, again, about $10,000, 5 in 1,200. The odds of being hospitalized and having a surgery of over $10,000 potentially cost nowadays, more often, 105 out of 1,200. But when you really look at the risks, the odds of needing extended care, this says long-term care because we use this in our long-term care. We'll change that if any of the agents are going to use this for extended care. But the odds are the same and even higher probably because of the fact it covers surgeries and knee replacements. But that's a pretty good graphic if you're doing a screen share, just to kind of show people saying, hey, I hope it's like everything else too. We don't want to use our homeowners. But at the end of the day, the facts really don't lie. There are a really good chance you'll use this. And with these plans, they're so well leveraged, the break even's just unbelievable comparably. So I'm going to jump back, Dennis. Sorry, I just thought it was worth bringing that up in there as well. Where did you want to go back to the main slide?
I think that's a good segue back into in the aspect of them not thinking it's going to happen. But this idea of buying coverage later, some people think, hey, I'm just going to buy it closer to when I might expect to need care. They're 65 today and they're thinking they're going to wait. And I know you and I had a conversation just about this, especially with how affordable these plans are. And I would always have people in my seminars that say, tell me, what is the age I should be looking to buy this coverage? Their objection was that they were thinking that they were going to just buy it later. And my answer was always the same. They were expecting me to say 67 and a half, or 66, or, some magical age. And I would always say, the time in which you need to plan and buy coverage is, and the age is the age you are right now. It doesn't really matter what age you were 5 years ago, and it's really not going to, it will matter a lot if you wait. And Tom, maybe in the few minutes we have, and I've got a couple other thoughts on this overcoming objections, but do you want to just maybe on some of you penciled down a couple things I think that was to help people to understand the idea if someone waits, just a short period of time to actually buy, how that can impact that those rates.
Yeah, and again, that comes back to the extended care products you guys are selling to your clients. And if you look at these, like I said, you've seen some of our training, and I can't get too long-winded because of our time here, but you've seen our training. You've seen that we can develop these robust plans that'll knock your socks off and have literally up to $1 million worth of coverage available. But on the flip side, we can scale these plans down to be very, very affordable. And one of the things I'd look at a 65-year-old, since you guys, that's your wheelhouse. If you had a 65-year-old and I sold them a base plan, $100 a day plan for 360 days on both sides, the facility and the home care. And if I sold that to a 65-year-old, what I want you as an agent to know is how well leveraged these plans are. Because, I'd say, you could wait, but why would you want to risk having, God forbid, a big catastrophic illness or accident that you needed care and you don't have it? But on the flip side, these plans are so well leveraged. Buy something today and you can stack these plans and buy more coverage later if you want. So I could sell you anything that's really affordable today that we could even add to a couple years from now. But the key is we want to move today, because if something happens, and remember, these plans cover things like knee replacements and anytime you need help. So there's a lot of things as we get 65 plus that you don't think about that you might need. So that's why those percentages are so high. But I could sell you for 65-year-old, I could sell you for $61 a month. And that's, for example, if you use Omniflex again, I don't need to be so product specific, but $739 a year, and I could save you $300 on the prescription drug reimbursement to get it down to $439 if I wanted to. But let's go to the bigger number, even the $739. If you did that number and you said at 65, even if you never used it for any of those other things, which truthfully is probably doubtful, because you're probably going to have something where you need to go into the hospital or have something for you get 10 or 20 days of coverage somewhere. But let's pretend you never used it until you were 85. And you know what? That's the typical age. They say 80 to 85 is when most people are going to end up where they're going to need some custodial care or something more hardcore might happen. And at that point, if you look at that, paying those premiums in for those 15 years, you know what the break even is? The break even's only 66 days with that plan that you'd need care that it would pay for itself if you had the prescription drug reimbursement, or only 110 days, 111 days, I think it is, when you round up, 111 days worth of care, and it'll break even. And, you can look at that. That's 6.5 times leveraging if you had a full-blown claim that your money is leveraged. And if you had the prescription drug, it's literally 11 times the coverage that you paid for. So it's a very, very affordable way. You could never invest money and come up with those same type of transitions there. So this is a very, very strong opportunity for you to cover you on both ends. And again, remember, we don't have to solve 100% of your issue today. We can stack these policies. They play so nice. You think Medicare won't pay for it or will pay for it? Remember, these are indemnity benefits that play on top of anything else you might have. So if you have some coverage, more power to you, but it's nice to have the extra dollars because you paid in your valuable premium dollars for it. So I don't know if that helps without getting too deep, Dennis.
Yeah, Tom, no, that's perfect. And I think as we wrap up our time on answering and overcoming objections. I just want you just hit on something I think it's so important, and it comes back to this idea that I can't afford it now or it's too expensive. What Tom just illustrated is about the power of the leverage. Is if that client, and this is something you may want to write down, you may want to use. I've used it very successfully and over the many years doing these consumer workshops, and I've had agents come back and just tell me, "Oh, I just love that I use that all the time." And that is, if the client says to you, and they're struggling with price, and it goes like this, Bob and Mary, we've talked today about this plan, and I just want to be honest with you. If you can't afford the premium that we're talking about today, Tom said $61 a month, then you can't afford the event. Think about that. The price, which check do you want to write? Do you want to write the small check that you can fit into your budget? Or do you have to want to write that big check that Tom said that could actually, at the end of the day, wipe you out? And so when we're dealing with objections, again, the takeaways are, remember, you're probably, because of clients that like you, trust you, know that you would not be bringing up this particular solution just to sell them another product, but because it really is the other half of their healthcare program. I want to just share with you one last thought. And again, I think it's powerful, and it kind of goes along with what Tom just said about trying to move the needle and get people to see the power of these programs. And that is, it's better to have it, that speaking of a plan, an extended care plan, and not need it, than to need it and not be able to obtain it. So thanks for joining us. And Tom, I'll turn it back over to you for a final thought.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis. And again, I know there's points here when, if you haven't been around in this market, or you haven't been in sales for a long time, especially, that you drink it out of a fire hose. Again, we know that these webinars, we have to keep them reasonably short, and there's obviously years of worth of knowledge and experience going into these trainings. So we want you to know that that's one of the things we're doing with the short-term care initiative. We're trying really hard to work with our partner agencies out there and have somebody on their team who can, and kind of be a train-the-trainer, where we can spend a little bit more time with them. So if there's any of our partners on, make sure you realize we're here to do that. We can spend a lot more in-depth time with your train-the-trainer side of it. And then we got a great GoldenCare team here, obviously marketers that are here to help all of you as well. But at the end of the day, contact your marketer. The next step is really up to you. You want to make sure that if you're not appointed with these different carriers that we've had in this initiative, get appointed, and realize that there's, again, I'm going to go back to it, get on my soapbox for 5 seconds. If you're not helping these folks, they're out there, and I promise you this, we all know, is Medicare going to suddenly say, wow, we found a bunch of money we didn't realize we have? Is Medicaid going to suddenly say, let's start stepping up and giving away more money? At the end of the day, people, those budgets are getting stretched. And, they say right now you can hide all your assets, but trust me, as these states get more and more bankrupt, and as these states start seeing that they can't afford Medicare budgets, and the feds can't keep giving them enough dollars, those budgets are going to go down, and people are going to be stretched and hurt because they didn't plan ahead. So you have the opportunity with those 65-year-olds right now. They will love you 15 years from now if you can go in there and say, let's protect your family. I promise this is more important than you think. So again, I'll get off my soapbox, and this is Tom Randall from GoldenCare. I want to thank you, Dennis. Great job. Thanks for your help here. And again, we're here to help. So hopefully you'll jump on one of our webinars in the near future. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
The next step is yours. Contact your marketer for more information and to start offering short-term care solutions to your clients. And be sure to sign up for our other short-term care hot topic webinars.